Hello everyone and welcome to Collaborative Tech Talks, a podcast from the experts at ScreenBeam. I'm your host Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the program. Now, this is the third episode in a series, and today we're discussing the strategies and technologies that resellers and dealers should be considering to successfully prepare their customers for a safe return to the workplace. And joining me here today, first and foremost, is Mike Ellenberger. He is the Vice President and General Manager at ScreenBeam. Mike, thanks so much for joining me.
Great to be here, Tyler. Thank you.
Thrilled to have you back on the show, man. And we also have Jeff Willis, Senior Vice President of Product Management for Exertis North America. Jeff, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, and hello to you, and hello to Mike.
Well, we're hoping for a lively discussion here today, guys. So let's open things up. We'd like to start off just by covering the newly expanded partnership between Exertis and ScreenBeam. So let's dive in there first of all. So Jeff, as a major Pro AV distributor, how does ScreenBeam fit within the Exertis portfolio, and what advantages do you see in Exertis for ScreenBeam? And most importantly, how will your customers benefit?
Great question, Tyler, and we're thrilled to represent ScreenBeam in the marketplace. There is a relationship with ScreenBeam that crosses more than just North America, but my responsibility covers North America, and so excited to be able to take ScreenBeam to customers in the US and Canada. And when we think about a need for this solution, there has never been a bigger or better time than now. And that's exciting, whether, and I'm sure we'll talk through customers that are and end users who are working at home, working collaboratively in some sort of office space, or connecting in some other way from wherever they may be. And ScreenBeam provides all of those solutions, and it's a tremendous opportunity that we have to offer our resellers a solution, and very excited about ScreenBeam.
Mike, let's flip it over and talk about it from your perspective, just as far as the partnership goes between ScreenBeam and Exertis.
Yeah, well, we're really excited, as Jeff mentioned. We have a global partnership with Exertis, and so we're partnered, in Europe and here in North America, Canada, Latin America, and we're looking at some other global regions as well. And Exertis Pro AV really is a powerhouse in the industry, and it's not just because of their scale and their reach, but it's really about their model and how they put value add into the equation. For every level of the industry, and it's very helpful. I think right now, resellers, integrators, they're all trying to determine what solutions they need to prioritize to get in front of their customers and what's going to help drive those local economies. The Pro AV industry plays a very critical role in return to work and also return to school. And so helping to solve those problems, and by Exertis bringing the strength of their global organization to the table to help local resellers really achieve those goals and solving those problems, is a huge benefit for the industry, for the economy, and certainly for ScreenBeam as a partner.
Absolutely, and you guys both touched on this to a certain extent already, but it's just a fact at this point that COVID really changed the nature of work and the workplace and what it looks like. Just from from your own experiences, how did it impact your own companies and your reseller and dealer partners? And what were some of the biggest challenges that you saw across this time?
I think for us, the biggest challenge was in helping our customers mitigate the impact and also take advantage of the opportunities that came with the pandemic. And so early on, it was all about, are we going to see projects canceled? Are we going to see technologies change? And I think the answer to all of that at various stages was yes. We did see projects postponed. We did see solutions and investment dollars move towards other products. But as Mike had mentioned, what we are really all about as Exertis, particularly on the Pro AV side of the business, is creating specialisms, and those specialisms, those abilities to focus, those abilities to create solutions with customers, really enabled us to not only shift into solutions that we had for products that we had, but also add new products and new capabilities to our offering, which then helped those resellers very early on realize that this isn't a pandemic in terms of business ending. This is a health pandemic that creates opportunities for us in the marketplace, and that's what all of us certainly focused on, taking care of each other first, and the health and safety of not only our team but our resellers, and getting through those early stages, and then really capitalizing on the opportunities that came along with work at home. What did work at home mean? How are we going to collaborate with each other? How effective could we be? And I think our team overall did a really, really good job with that. But the resiliency of the marketplace is what is continuing to show through. The Pro AV market, the Pro AV resellers, the integrators who have essentially gone from creating experiences where lots of people could gather, which is the hallmark of the AV business, to something that is creating an experience remotely, one-to-one. In many cases, or as a perfect example in this case, where there's three of us on a call and communicate using a technology to communicate to many more. Those were the very quickly the some of the shifts that had to take place early on, and not only did the resellers respond to that, their customers were understanding and responded to it, and along the way, we have an enormous organization, as Mike mentioned, of Exertis overall, lots of ability to make decisions day to day with customers, and autonomy with our sales team with those customers, so we could be very agile and shift as we needed to.
We definitely saw Exertis responding to the market, and integrators in general looking at, okay, where is the opportunity? Like Jeff states, it's a health pandemic, it's not a business pandemic. And that means that, our channels, our customers, our partners need to understand how to pivot. And, they count on the manufacturers and their value-added distribution partners to assist them in achieving that pivot, right? We're all in the same industry together. And so I think a lot of resellers actually have seen some great successes, kind of changing course and capitalizing on how can we help solve these problems for customers, over during this time. And so a number of things have happened, looking at the ScreenBeam business and looking at kind of the anatomy of what our partners look like. We saw more and more integrators starting to shift towards not just selling project-based solutions, but really looking at what type of solutions can we promote in that will retrofit to help solve these problems. And that was a really big pivot, I think, for a Pro AV integrator to take, looking at things in a much broader scope versus, a narrower scope of a project-based type of approach to the market. And thankfully ScreenBeam fits into that very well. We're a contactless technology, and so returning to work is of great importance. And I know we're going to talk about this later on, but really this whole idea of hybrid meetings and what are people going to be doing when they come back into the workplace, what's driving them back into this new hybrid work environment. A lot of that's going to be about collaboration and people coming together to do group work, to do meetings, and so the dynamics have changed. The technology in those spaces is changing.
Yeah, Mike, since you took us there, let's go there right now and discuss that hybrid environment like you're talking about. Do you think that this is going to be a permanent change, or is this a transition to just getting us back on the path to the office as we knew it before? I know I hadn't heard the term, hybrid work environment nearly as much as I've heard it in the last 2 or 3 months. And so where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is here to stay. It's really going to be about what is the mix going to look like. Obviously, in the initial stages right now and moving forward, people are starting to return to the workplace. Obviously, depending on where you are in the world and what the progress is with vaccinations. But right now, this is starting to change. And so employers are making their facilities available, and people can come in and they can work, a couple of days in the office if they want to, and work, from home. based on the schedules that really meet the needs of their role. But what we're seeing more and more is the drivers for when am I going to go back into an office as an employee is going to be more around when do I need to be there in person to do meetings versus checking in to be in my office or in my cubicle or my open workspace. So that driver is changing tremendously. And employers are looking at their facilities and saying, okay, right, how are we going to retrofit these facilities so that we can have more meeting spaces available, so that we can create more collaboration space, and maybe less of the traditional kind of cubicle workspaces?
I would tend to agree with Mike. There will be a hybrid approach. I think the concept of working from home or working remotely or working from anywhere, as it's been described, was a new concept for a lot of people and a lot of companies when the pandemic hit. And I think surprisingly to many of those folks, but not to many of us generally, I think you'd find out that that everybody subscribes now to the fact that work can be done just about anywhere, and often cases you can be more effective, and teams can be more effective. We came from what was generally a in-office work environment, and have successfully transitioned to work from anywhere. The collaboration that we have with individual teams, I would classify as never been stronger. There are enormous opportunities to kind of check in through the day with people, which is great. And just getting a break when you're in the office full time, getting a break meant jumping into your car, perhaps going to grab a coffee and coming back to the office, or going for a walk around the office complex. And you still, I don't think we're able to mentally recharge as much as you can if you're home, if you've learned to work from home or learned to work remotely, and then being able to take that break in a different kind of way, whether it be go out and get the mail, or take a moment to read the newspaper, or let the dog outside. Those are all things that I think people have adapted to, and in the process have realized that the engagement can be higher. The creation of high performing teams tied into that flexibility is advantageous to everybody's health and well-being. And so I think it's here to stay. There's no doubt. And as a result, the technology is more important than ever. Just to add to what Mike said about going to the office, there will be days that the team needs to be in the office. There will be days that the work, whatever it may be, is done better in the office, and there will be individual people who are heavy remote based because that's where they perform their best, and there's going to be people that are heavy office environment because they perform their best. We have continued to add people during the pandemic, and the process to onboard somebody fully remote has been interesting. It's been fun. It's been engaging. But we've added people to the business that normally we would have spent a lot of time with face to face, and that's not the case. So those components, again in balance will all work themselves out over the course of time. But this is where technology is leading the way. I mean, just just how far Zoom and Teams have come through the pandemic. We've moved from very little phone interaction on cell phones, which used to be a lot, and IMing, to doing most of our work through Teams or Zoom, and really effective. The ability to check in with our teammates throughout the day has been really effective, and all of that. Today, we'd be talking about that as a possibility if it were pre-pandemic, and obviously we've seen that shift over the past year or so. Long answer, but never is there a better time for ScreenBeam and the products that Mike's team represents now to integrate those into a hybrid work solution.
Yeah, we really appreciate that, and I think it's going to be interesting because the camaraderie and community that's built around a company and teams within the company. I think people all want to get back to that. There's certainly a level of kind of fatigue with regards to video conferencing, and other things to think about is that as more college graduates are entering the workforce and they're just really starting to build their careers, that leadership and that mentorship, you really need to be doing a lot of that face to face. So while we say, hybrid is here to stay, it doesn't mean that hybrid is going to replace the office. In fact, I don't ever see the office being completely obliterated. It's a really important landing zone for people, just to be able to get in there and have a change of pace, to be able to do projects and of course have meetings with people. But I think just the way people are as beings, just being together and having that social aspect of the office as well is incredibly important.
In community events or industry events as well, big deal, big opportunity to bring people together in learning environments. So while some of that may change in terms of what it looks like in the short term, certainly a huge part of who we are as an AV business in particular moving forward.
Yeah, that's excellent points made by both of you. And Mike, as you were saying, just one of the things that hasn't happened during this time really has been that spontaneous collaboration within the office setting that can just happen when you're around people. And that was a big topic of our last podcast conversation with Mark Coxon, the technology leader for Tingram Interiors. And so if you missed that episode, go back and check out that episode where we kind of got into that a little bit more in depth. But, guys, the transition to working from home at the beginning of the pandemic was pretty simple, right? Because at the end of the day, you just needed to download Zoom, download Teams, that sort of thing. The tools that we needed were kind of right there at our fingertips, and they were inexpensive. It was a download, it was a subscription, that sort of thing. But now we kind of face the challenge of connecting all of these different devices in office spaces that ensure an equal user experience among many participants who are both in person and also remote. So what technology advantages should integrators be considering when helping their customers build these new collaboration spaces that have to take all of these different devices and platforms into consideration?
The first thought is that all of what we've spent the last year on, or little over a year now, in terms of using technology to collaborate remotely, transfers to the office as well. And so I think being able to bring teams from around different parts of the country, from different offices, from different locations in one central place and allow them to communicate and collaborate with each other. The AV industry has talked about this in so many different fashions prior to the pandemic. And how do we show one screen, and how do we allow somebody who's annotating for that to be seen in other parts of wherever people may be. And today, we're doing this all remotely. We've all been forced to come up to speed on collaborating remotely. And as we move into back into the office, there clearly will be guidance from us from a technology standpoint to use solutions and products like Mike's company, like ScreenBeam, to do just that, to bring the best of working from anywhere and bring that into the office. There will be mini collaboration spaces, if you will, where we will have in one office have screens that very much mirror and mimic the experience that we had at home, where we have people collaborating not just in remote places, but probably other people within the same building and offices as well, particularly as guidelines continue to be established with how close those of us who are back in the office should or shouldn't be near each other, and the guidelines that ultimately companies follow on that. But the technology more than ever will be integrated. The technology solutions are there. This industry has them. And the greater emphasis, I think, will be placed on the learning aspects of what it means to collaborate in small groups and still engage many in that process.
I would say that it's actually a pretty natural evolution, as people return to the office and they start to discover these new technologies. And first and foremost, I want to point out to all of our resellers and integrators that are watching this show that the business opportunity is really there for you today, and it's in advance of employees returning to work. This is a very on topic now conversation to be having with your customers. But I think very realistically, people have learned how to use these tools, and there's just certain expectations. The UC industry itself has advanced, 5 years as far as adoption, in the past, 14, 16 months that we've been contending with all these changes and with COVID. And so coming back into the office, just having these spaces at the ready is going to make all the difference in the world.
One of the real questions, Tyler and Mike, is when we're back in the office, will we still choose to use a virtual background, right? Or will we actually use the real background at that time? Because so many of us on these calls are now in the studio loft apartments. If you look at what people are using from a background, so the work environments have actually improved over the course of the year, at least virtually.
Yep, that's right. But remember, it's going to be great, because when we get back into the office, we're going to still have the needs of the in-person meeting, right? What is that meeting room going to facilitate? And we've got to enable easy connectivity right in those rooms where people can just jump in and start to have meetings. And ScreenBeam's portfolio of solutions really addresses that. But we also now need to make sure that we're caring for remote participants. And I think that the propensity for meetings to have remote participants is now more likely than not. And so those meetings rooms, while the utilization will still be very high, the way that they're being used is going to be a little bit different. We have to provide a solution that says, right, we can have a great in-person meeting here, and at the same time, it's totally inclusive of anybody who wants to connect and join the meeting via Zoom or Teams or WebEx or any of the other platforms that are out there.
I'd also just add to that as well, because Mike had talked about the time to make that story get told, make that sale for our integrators, our customers that are out there is now. And I just want to reinforce that, because this is the time to be doing that. This is a time where companies are thinking about what does the next quarter look like in terms of our office space? What does the next 6 months look like? What does the year look like? And early on, where we heard so many companies talk about, we'll always have a virtual component with how we go to work and work from anywhere. True. And as we mentioned, that's here to stay, but companies are making decisions today in terms of technology. And I would also urge our customers, our integrators, to get in front of those end users now and start talking about those solutions, and collaborate with us, collaborate with ScreenBeam, find ways to not only own a piece of technology within the customer, but own the experience. And this is what you're good at. This is what you've done to audiences of many people. And now with the technology being deployed, you just don't need to focus on and concentrate on the video aspect of it, but use a specialist distributor like Exertis, who has the capability to bring audio solutions to the table as well, that has the ability to work within small rooms and larger rooms, and as we've now called them, hybrid rooms. And so the opportunity and the time to get involved with all of that is now. Never could there be a better time. And let's just remember, as we watch what has taken place in the transition of power at the governmental level, starting with federal, and how that has cascaded now through state and local governments, and the amount of money, the amount of stimulus money that will be available to different verticals to get after the technology, whether they be in education, whether it be corporate, whether it's transportation, infrastructure. All of that is going to benefit from those dollars. And this is an incredible time for our integrators to be all over that. And again, work with partners that are able to help you walk those solutions in and get them designed and get them sold and get them deployed. You are the subject matter experts, and this is the time for that to shine.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Jeff, one of the reasons why we love partnering with Exertis is the value added aspect. Our whole business is predicated on providing value and a ton of support to our integrators and to the end users, customer success. I mean, obviously, really important. But the Exertis team does a tremendous job of either providing the expertise that they have for ScreenBeam towards the integrator and helping them being very successful, or navigating into ScreenBeam and using our subject matter experts to help to engage with conversations with your customers, bringing technical people in. On the education side, we have actually a consultancy inside of ScreenBeam of former classroom teachers and education technologists. And they open up those conversations and they make it very easy for you to go out there and engage. We haven't really talked about K-12 education, but K-12 education and higher education are huge market opportunities. And quite frankly, those are areas where we saw growth over the course of the pandemic. So there's a lot of potential out there for integrators that want to go after these types of growth opportunities.
Yeah, that segment in particular did not stop spending, which is great. The product and technologies and the sale shifted, but many of our integrators benefited and now will obviously continue to benefit in a big way, something I think in a way that we've never seen before in terms of the investment in technology, particularly into education, and exciting times ahead.
Jeff, I wanted to follow up on your comments for integrators and just kind of your charge to go out there and to to interact with customers and that sort of thing. How would you recommend that integrators approach that conversation when it comes to understanding the needed expenditure, but the benefits that can come from that expenditure as you set up maybe more hybrid meeting rooms, more places for collaboration to occur, that sort of thing? What kinds of recommendations would you give in terms of how they should approach that conversation with their customers?
Yeah, the first is to be well informed, right? So to have a handle on, and I would say generally speaking, the integration customers, the resellers do. They understand what the opportunity is because they understand that the dollars that are flowing into their customers that are meant to be spent on technology. So they understand the opportunity from that standpoint. Two, they're highly regarded as the subject matter expert for particular solutions. They've already been for years, whether it go back to projection in a classroom, or you take the technology and the story is the same. Is that the integrator is the subject matter expert, and historically hasn't conceded that space to other knowledgeable experts trying to get into their customer. And so this is the time. So first and foremost, Tyler, to answer the question, they need to make sure they understand the opportunity. And understand that the learning environment, if it's education, may look a little different. But number one. Number two is that they're partnered with somebody like Exertis and somebody like ScreenBeam that can help them solve problems, right? Because once they get inside of and they're meeting with whether it's the building person or the health and safety team within education or everybody's got to say. Whoever it may be, they're going to have to answer lots of different questions. So if we're back in schools and we're working 6 feet apart and our kids want to collaborate on a project, what's that look like from a technology standpoint? If we're back in the office and there's a learning environment or a classroom taking place, what changes need to occur because we may not be within 3 feet of each other? Whatever those rules and expectations are, they need to make sure that they understand that and are partnered with companies like ScreenBeam, distributors like Exertis, ProAV, who have the capability to walk into those customers alongside of the reseller and talk about designing a solution that's specific to that particular situation. And in that process, there's certainly going to be some best-in-class solutions and some out-of-box solutions as well. But I think knowledge is the key, and being the trusted advisor is the key, and doing what the AV industry has traditionally done best, and that's bringing experts to the table to help create an environment that's the right environment for for that end user. That's key. Highly collaborative, if you will, on creating the solution.
I think it's important to note, Jeff, you kind of touched on this at the beginning, that there's more money in the market for these types of solutions, and it's not, those budgets aren't only held by IT and AV departments at the customer level. We're seeing human resources and facilities budgets being allocated towards these types of solutions. And, I agree 100%. Become educated about what solutions make sense to be tip of spear. ScreenBeam is absolutely a tremendous tip of spear strategy for any reseller that is going into and servicing these markets. And, it's important to understand, again, that you can deploy ScreenBeam as a retrofit solution as well as part of a larger integrated solution. And so the first thing is go have that conversation with the customer. If you're not comfortable with the conversation yet, invite ScreenBeam to help you have that conversation with the customer, or invite Exertis to help you have that conversation. That's what we do. We're here to help you make those things happen, and really lead with it and go out there and look at what is it going to take to deploy at a basic level this wireless presentation, this collaborative environment to start, and then look at, okay, what are the other opportunities that are there? Because you really don't want to slow down your sale, and you don't want to slow down solving this problem for the customer by adding too much complexity to it. The great thing about what we're doing with our partners today is we're going through and doing deployments, hundreds of rooms, sometimes thousands of rooms, where they're just deploying ScreenBeam to start. And then the other needs that are coming back in from an AV perspective are getting planned in. And so once you start, you can then start to go follow on and add in more jobs to help that customer. But right now, they need contactless technology, and they need ways to enable collaboration very quickly. And there's more funding sources. So go find them and let us help you drive success.
Now, guys, on a personal note, how has COVID affected your work-life balance? And what are you looking forward to when it comes to getting back into the office? What excites you about that potential?
Work-life balance. I haven't heard that one in a while.
What even is that anymore?
What is work-life balance? I would say for me personally, there certainly is a lot more effort that we're putting out as a team. And I think that's impacted me personally, just as far as the amount of time that's being invested into the business, but incredibly happy to do it. I mean, this is really an opportunity. You're talking about kind of ScreenBeam as the company that co-invented the technology for wireless display to begin with. And so we took this amazing journey of going out into the market and saying, hey, this is what wireless display is, and this is why it's important, and here's why you should care. And we went through this entire education process, partnered with Intel, and then of course our big partnership with Microsoft as their co-engineering partner. It just takes years and years and years of education. And so to kind of be at this point where the industry is just absolutely explosive, you have to be ready to capitalize on it and invest the time that's needed to help the business grow and to help our partners grow. We have a lot of partners that have been working with us for years, and they're really seeing great business results. So we have to be there. I don't know going back into the office is going to make much of a difference. But I think the in-person exchanges are going to be tremendous. And I'm really, really looking forward to more of that.
I would add to what Mike said as well. I think many of us, myself included, are looking forward to more of it and more of the excitement. Personally, from a pandemic standpoint, again, as I mentioned, having gone to the office every day for a big part of my time at what used to be Stampede and is now Exertis, we all quickly changed that when the pandemic hit, and I could not be more proud of our team about the things that we've been able to accomplish, the handle that we have on the business, the use of technology, the deeper understanding, if you will, the people, and it's everybody, who has kind of shined through and found ways to get things done. Being able to connect with many from different places has been a real powerful learning for everybody. And there's a lot of excitement in our business. There's a lot of excitement in the industry. There's a lot of belief that there's incredible times just around the corner for us as we begin to gather. And the fact that all of us have learned a different way to work in that process is really powerful. So for us, we're looking forward to industry gatherings. We're looking forward to office time. We're looking forward to flex time. We're looking forward to continuing to build solutions that are focused on helping the AV business do what it does best, and that's really create experiences for people and enable in an industry. And that is that is what we're looking forward to the most. It's the pandemic, as we now talk about this idea of herd immunity and reaching the point that this is in our past is everybody that I talk to mostly throughout the day is really excited by what lies just around the corner. And so the pandemic from that standpoint has been good. Just to add, the many people talk about, and we saw this a lot when 2020 transitioned to 2021, what a year it was. We never want this year to happen. And, you saw all kinds of things that reiterated that point, whether it was on social media or whatever. And, many of the folks I've talked to in this industry look at it as 2020 was a great year. We learned an incredible amount of things. We saw that we could persevere in ways that we never talked about. We learned how to sell new products, new technologies. Those aren't going away. The way we work isn't going away. And our ability to now sell and deploy solutions like ScreenBeam, like Mike talked about, is they exist in a big way, and it's just not doing the same thing that we used to do. It's selling those solutions in new environments, and we're excited by that. So good. So the pandemic affected me personally in a lot of ways, but the biggest of which was creating a sense of awe and excitement about what is just around the corner.
Well, speaking of what's coming up in the future, Jeff, one of the things you mentioned was the return of industry events. So let's wrap up here with this last conversation today. We know InfoComm was moved to later on in the year, coming up in October. What are you looking forward to about getting back out there, seeing people at a show again? Just tell me what you're excited about for InfoComm in October.
Dinner with people. We used to when we would go to InfoComm, we'd load up our schedule and we'd have dinner, sometimes 2 dinners a night, actually sometimes 3, and we'd try to make them all. And we, you reach the point where they were meaningful, but you've crammed a lot in, and often you saw the same people over and over at those dinners, and they were all great. But having not done them for a little over a year now, I think many of us are looking forward to being able to do all of that again. There's an awful lot of this industry's work that gets done from a relationship standpoint, breaking bread with others, if you will. And I think that's one of the things that we're looking for. The other is to have the industry together, sharing the same mindset of what I hope is enthusiastic, eye-opening opportunities about what tomorrow will hold for us, for our business, for ScreenBeam, and for the industry as a whole. And I think we'll see that. I think there's going to be an awful lot of excitement around InfoComm time, and we'll hopefully all the numbers and people's fears or not having fears, whatever their personal choice may be about spending time with others, continues to evolve and diminish, and we can all come together again, because we all have some great work yet to do, and I think being able to talk about getting that done in person is extremely exciting.
Yeah, I would say, I'm looking forward to the feedback. I think, for us, industry events, Infocom, especially is a great place to get feedback um, from the industry, from our customers, really hear what is going on. Our mantra inside of our company is really about developing our technology portfolio, utilizing the customer feedback mechanism, and we've worked really hard to get to the portfolio that we have today, but never to be complacent, always to be thinking about what are the problems of the future, what are the things that our customers are going to need, what are the tools that our channel is going to need to be able to be successful, and it always, I'm always thinking about, when we first started launching ScreenBeam technology, we were really focused on K-12 education. And in fact, we're still very focused on K-12 education as a vertical. And the first year we went to ISTE, which is a major education event here in the US, we put up our booth and we had all of our demos ready and our whole team was there. It was very exciting. And we didn't really know what to expect. We had sold a lot of product and done a lot of great work with education systems. And what we found was that at this particular show, there was a very high population of classroom teachers that attended the event because it happens over the summer. And all day, every day, teachers were coming out of the woodwork towards us and saying, oh my goodness, I can't begin to tell you how this technology has changed my life as a teacher. It's changed the way that I've been able to interact with students in the classroom. I'm no longer chained to the front of the room, to the podium, to be able to connect up with the front of the room. I can interact with students better. It went on and on. That kind of feedback really helps us as a tech company to understand the human aspect, because at the end of the day, it's not about the technology, it's about the experiences that people are having with the technology. And these trade shows give us another avenue to really hear it, but to have that conversation, that two-way real-time dialogue with not just our customers, not just our partners and our distributors, but the actual end customers that are using it is incredibly important. So I'm really looking forward to getting that feedback. And then of course, I'm looking forward to all the fun stuff that happens around the industry. ScreenBeam is very involved with Avixa, and we have people on our team that support all different kind of aspects of the industry association. And I look forward to getting together with Jeff for dinner. That's something that we definitely, it's long past due, my friend.
Yeah, no, that's very true. We during the pandemic we evolved our name of our business. Our U.S. business was, and our Canadian business was Stampede, as many who are watching the call would know, and so we evolved that to Exertis Pro AV in October. And so part of our marketing campaign was to paint the town red, and Stampede had always had a gigantic presence at Infocom, and as Exertis, we're ready to as we say, paint Infocom red. And so cheers to being able to do that and having dinner together at Infocom again. But there's a lot of pent up energy and excitement for what Exertis Pro AV is, and can't wait for Infocom to show that.
Mike Ellenberger, Jeff Willis. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here on this episode of Collaborative Tech Talks, a podcast from ScreenBeam. Gentlemen, thank you once again.
It was great. Thank you, Tyler.
Take care. Thanks for your time, guys.
And everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of the show. We enjoyed having you. Of course, if this is the first episode you're checking out, go back and listen to some of the previous episodes of the show and subscribe while you're there to stay up to date with the latest from ScreenBeam. And stay tuned. We'll be back soon with more episodes. But until then, for my guests, Mike and Jeff, I've been your host today, Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for watching.